welcome back to Game of Growth, your weekly podcast. You're listening to episode 16, and I'm your host, Tina Verma from Truepush. Today's podcast is very important for our audience to understand what it takes for a donation or a giving platform to run in house marketing and growth activities that have an impact on alleviating many problems, issues, and concerns for the humanity. I'm talking about India's largest and most trusted donation platform, GiveIndia, with 13 lakh donors and 150 plus corporates, supporting 1250 plus nonprofits, and impacting 45 lakh lives. So, our guest for today is Priyanka Prakash. She's heading the marketing and partnerships at GiveIndia. Welcome to the show, Priyanka. It's great to see you here. And how are you doing?
Hi, Tina. Thank you for those kind words about GiveIndia. And I'm very happy to join this podcast. Doing really well. And I hope you and everybody who's listening to the show is staying safe as well.
True, right. So, Priyanka, can you share with us your experience of working with GiveIndia? What are the key learnings from it, personally and professionally as well?
Sure. So just a little bit of background about myself. I don't come from the development sector. I have historically worked either at consulting and banking organizations, and post which I've also worked at several startups in India. So moving to the development sector was a very difficult choice for people who have worked in corporate and startup sector, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a big change when it comes to your finances, when it comes to the work itself. However, I think to your question about what has been your experience to Give India, one of the reasons that I joined Give India is one of the nonprofits that has a very different perspective when it comes to growth and scale within the development sector. If you look at most of the non-profits who operate on ground, they focus on ground operating, impact and quality of work, right?
Right.
However, to enable this kind of work to happen, there has to be a constant stream of funds so that they can do their work really well without having to worry about fundraise. And I think Give India's core tenet is exactly that, to enable giving across the country so that these nonprofits who are operating on the ground can do their work really well and just focus on that aspect. Give India focuses on that scale and growth, as one of their core philosophies, right? And that's what really struck a chord with me. Also the philosophy that everybody should be giving back to the society, and how can a platform like Give India enable that? In a country like India, where there's a very strong trust deficit when it comes to nonprofits,
Right.
there's also a lot of questions on, okay, even if I cross that barrier of trust deficit, I now want to give, but where do I give? Who do I give it to? And how do I give? I think that's a problem that has historically not been solved in a very surgical and thought through manner. And Give India's aim is to solve for these problems. One is the trust deficit, another is to enable ease of giving. And these two problem statements really struck a chord with me. Another aspect is at Give India, while it is a non-profit, the experience is very different. I've been with Give India for about a year and a half now.
Mhm.
Never felt that I'm working in a non-profit. It's the same environment that you would experience at a Series A growth startup, where there's a lot of hustle, long hours, pressure, and extreme targets. And I think that is visible in the past even in the past 2-3 months, for example, we've raised more than 200 crores just for COVID. And all
Wonderful.
of this, for something like this to happen, the intent and will within the organization has to be very, very aspirational. And for me, I think it's been a transformative experience, both personally and professionally. Professionally, I think, whether it is cracking the largest kind of partnerships and changing the perspective of consumer platforms to enable giving on their platforms, has been a huge, challenging and enriching experience for me. Apart from that, I would say personally, my own understanding of the development sector, my own understanding of how all of us think about giving, and what are the problems that we face, and what do we need to do to, help in the giving journey has really grown. And Give India personally is a very empathetic organization, and obviously so because we're in the development sector. We work with about 1,400 NGOs today. So the empathy as a factor is very very high. So personally, I have become a lot more empathetic about the work that happens on the ground. I tend to give more benefit of doubt to most people, because we 95% of the people that we come across always want to do something good.
Right.
And I think that is not amplified in our society. And working at Give India, I have met so many people who work selflessly for NGOs, self-help groups, volunteer groups, that it has transferred my own perspective towards people as well.
Amazing. Amazing. So, Priyanka, who are the people behind this initiative?
Sure. So, Give India started back in the year 2000 by Mr. Venkat Krishnan, who is the founding father, I can say, of Give India. He comes from IIM. He studied at IIM Ahmedabad. Worked at Sony as one of the founding team members. So very storied path of typical corporate path, right? However, he recognized that for a country like India, where poverty alleviation is such a big problem, why is it that the rest of the cumulative citizenship can't come together to solve for this? Why is it that we can't give 2% of our earnings so that we can, support the help the poor to move up the ladder? So that was his founding philosophy. He wanted to, back in 2000 itself, he wanted to set up, online giving platform, which was very way ahead of its time at that point in time.
Right.
He also envisioned at that point in time that individual giving is what will transform society at the end of the day, which is what is a big thing now, 20 years later. But that was his founding philosophy. So Venkat Krishnan is the one who started the organization. However, we have had, I would say, a lot of support from several philanthropists, right from Mr. Wagul, who's fondly called upon as the father of Indian banking. He was the chairman of ICICI Bank. He was the one who initially gave us a lot of support to start the Give India initiative. In fact, from the premises of ICICI Bank, and we grew leaps and bounds from there. Along the way, we've had a lot of support from people like Mr. Amit Chandra, who's one of the most um, uh, you know uh, supportive figure in the philanthropy circles today. And we've grown since then. But yes, that was the team. About 2.5, 3 years back, Atul Satija, who's now the CEO and also referred to as the founder 2.0, took over Give India. And while what he does is he complements Venkat sir's vision of how do we scale this. It's good that every individual has to give back, but how do you scale it? Today
Right.
in the consumer economy, when most of us spend our time on 10 to 12 apps every day and nowhere else, that is where we have to go after. So he came with a very different tech and product growth perspective. He comes from Google and InMobi background. Has scaled Google mobile business in Asia Pac and Japan. Within Mobi, he was the chief revenue officer. So he comes from a very high growth and scale mindset, and that's where he complements the organization. And I think, uh, fortunately enough, for the past 2 years, Give India has definitely learned and scaled quite well under his leadership.
Right. So, Priyanka, what are the core areas of work where Give India has been making an impact? Also, if you could share what is the total impact till date in numbers?
Sure. See, as an organization, our focus is to enable giving. That if you ask what is your core philosophy, what is that one vision, mission statement that you have? For us, that is enabling giving. And if you just use that as a mission statement, I feel today we have close to 14, 15 lakhs people who are giving back through either monthly giving or for fundraising opportunities or through their salaries. And for us, that is the biggest metric of success, right? How many people are we enabling? Are we enabling in their giving journey? That is the biggest metric of success for us. However, from a sector perspective, we are sector agnostic. We support all the sectors, whether it is education, healthcare, women, or livelihoods at all. We work with 1,400 NGOs, and I think 1,400 NGOs and growing is also another metric that we feel very proud and humble about, because for 1,400 NGOs to put their trust in us and grow with us is a very compelling number, and it keeps us grounded. Apart from that, over the past 20 years so far, we've raised close to 650 crores. And, we've easily impacted more than 40 lakh lives. Um, in addition to all of this, I think, like I said, enabling giving is our North Star. That is what we focus on. So if you look at some of the work that we've done in the past 1 year, like I said, most of us in the consumer economy, the people who can donate, who have a certain part of their income as disposable, they all spend their time on most of the apps, or you would say these platforms, right? And I think for GiveIndia, that has been one of the biggest uh, growth areas. And whether it is payment platforms like PhonePe and Google Pay, whether it is consumer e-commerce platforms like Flipkart, Myntra, Nykaa, Xiaomi, 1MG, and many of these, or new age apps like Cred, etc. This is where we feel, a lot of us spend our time on, and hence it's important for us to help these organizations to enable their consumers to give. It's also
Right.
important to make sure that they understand that social engagement is very important. And I feel that is the impact that we are having by enabling giving, not just on our own platform, but enabling all large consumer platforms to also enable their own consumers to give back to several causes of their choice. um, so yeah, so that is the impact in a nutshell so far.
Absolutely. Also, I would like to follow up on my previous question. If a donor wants to meet beneficiaries in person, so how is it taken forward?
So, see, most of our nonprofits uh, are very protective about the beneficiaries, right?
Right.
Obviously, because of data privacy, not just data privacy, but also privacy of the person itself. And one of the things that we always try to keep in mind is to preserve the dignity of the person, the beneficiary that we are supporting, right? I think while it's great that many volunteers and donors want to meet their beneficiaries, they also have to keep in mind how does the beneficiary feel about it, right? You
Right.
don't want to feel, if I were the beneficiary of certain donations, you don't want my donor to make me feel, I am doing you a favor.
Right.
So most nonprofits, and we also agree with them, tend to not share these details with the donors. But having said that, we do provide a clear update to all our donors, saying if you've donated 100 rupees, here's how that has been utilized, and here's the name of the beneficiary when the nonprofit allows us to do that. So in fact, on our monthly giving platform, we have a few programs where as soon as you donate, you will immediately get a email which ties you up with a certain beneficiary that you're donating. We have a program called Mission No Child Homeless, where it focuses on taking kids away from the streets who are involved in many rackets, for example. And every time a donor makes a donation, monthly commitment to that, he's immediately mapped to a certain beneficiary. So it's a balancing act. Not every time can a donor meet the beneficiaries, but yes, we make sure that transparency and reporting is taken care of, so that the donor still has a level of comfort and trust, so that to continue his donation journey.
Right. So Priyanka, Give India has a tremendous impact on millions of lives. Can you tell us more about some of the biggest movements or programs that Give India has led?
Sure. Um, so when it comes to the nonprofit side, I think what we focus on is we provide all the tools and a platform where nonprofits can raise funds, whether it is our monthly giving platform or a fundraiser or even several other partnerships that we do. From a nonprofit side, one of the very unique initiatives that we run is something called a Give India fundraising challenge and a charity housing challenge, which happens every year. And essentially, the focus of these two challenges is to get all the nonprofits excited through a period of 3 to 4 months to come together to teach them how to use digital marketing, performance marketing, email marketing, donor engagement, donor outreach, drip marketing, leverage all of these marketing strategies so that they can acquire new donors, engage with existing donors, and retain donors. So it's almost like a hackathon in a month where we all the engaging NGOs come together and they raise funds on the platform. So we feel that this is a great initiative that has helped the NGOs, many NGOs, to learn, acquire digital marketing skills, marketing skill, donor acquisition skills. So we're very proud of this initiative, and we continue to build on that year on year. Through this initiative, we also do a lot of training and webinars for all of our NGOs, so
Mm-hmm.
that they're not just thrown into the deep end of the pool. That is one of the initiatives that we are very proud of. Apart from this, on the donor side, there are several initiatives. For example, during Danutsav, we work with most of the large consumer platforms to enable giving on their platforms. We shortlist several causes with them, we curate causes with them, and raise funds with them.
Right.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's on the donor side. And lastly, I think one of the largest, at least in the past few years, has been the COVID initiative, which is the India COVID Response Fund, which we set up in early March. And we've now raised over 200 crores from close to 4 lakh donors on our platform and several other platforms. We've brought together several foundations, right from BMGF to 88 Chandra Foundation to Michael and Susan Den Foundation, and also philanthropists and corporates and consumer platforms, all to donate for the India COVID Response Fund. So that has been a very enriching and great experience. Of course, it's a timely initiative as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So instead of just connecting NGOs and donors, but to enable these NGOs to create awareness is really
Yeah.
wonderful. Moving forward, what makes one visit Give India platform to trustfully contribute to the NGOs? How do you define the trust in them? Also, how to make sure of the transparency between NGOs and the impact they are creating using these donations?
Sure. There are 2, 3 things that we do. At the beginning of the call, if you remember, I was talking about one of the challenges that donors have is A, trust deficit, and B, now that I've crossed that chasm, which nonprofit do I donate to?
Right.
The trust deficit we solve by doing few things. One is we verify and we have 2 levels of verifications. One is called give assured and another is give compliant. Across these 2 verification systems, we ensure that we understand the workings of all our nonprofits, whether it is their legal, finances, accounting, program implementation, doing physical visits to their offices and beneficiaries to ensure that the funds are being utilized in the right way. So
Mm-hmm.
these two ensure that we are bringing the most trusted nonprofits to our platform. The idea is that a donor comes to our platform, they should know that all the nonprofits are verified. Here are the metrics that have been verified for. And in fact, many nonprofits, say that we have the most stringent due diligence process, and we do that every year. It's not just once when you are onboarded. We do that every year. So the idea is for donors to feel that yes, this level of verification is happening, so I can donate to any of the nonprofits on this platform on Give India. Apart from that, what we also do is all our nonprofits have to adhere to a certain reporting mechanism. And that reporting varies by who the donor is. If it's a CSR fund, for example, it's usually a monthly or a quarterly reporting. which covers the breadth and depth of how the funds are being utilized. If it's a retail donor, we almost have a monthly reporting cycle with our retail donors. So, for example, let's say you've donated to a program called 10 Mission 10 Million Meals. Let's say you've donated 1,000 rupees every month. You get a report every month which talks about how these 1,000 rupees are utilized, right? Is it utilized for X number of meals? Has it also been utilized, let's say, for the truck cost, the truck that carries the meals, or is it utilized for buying the grains? Right, we break that down in the lowest level of detail so that the donor understands how exactly that has been done. In fact, a step ahead is all our programs, especially on our monthly giving platform, breaks down the cost even before the donor makes the donation. We tell you that, okay, if it's 1,000 rupees, here's how the breakup of 1,000 rupees is. So that transparency, both ahead of time and also making sure there's enough reporting to the donor, I feel is what helps us maintain a level of trust with most of our donors.
Right. Also, I would agree with you. So, to maintain the frequent quality checks and not just during the onboarding of the NGOs is one of the very important parameter here.
Right. Right.
Moving on to the next question, how do you build partnerships with the NGOs? I'm sure there must be many criteria for partnerships between Give India and NGOs. So, what exactly is that?
Um, So we are here to support all nonprofits who want to continue raising funds and do a lot of work on the ground, right? We don't say that there's a certain criteria that we follow, but
Hmm.
the most important criteria that we follow is that the nonprofit should go through our due diligence process, which is our verification process,
Right.
and that they should be open to a certain type of reporting schedule, because we have a very I would say stringent, very strict reporting and updates that the non-profits have to provide. And as long as nonprofits are willing to do that, and they clear our due diligence processes, we definitely onboard them and support them across the initiatives. Where we try to focus on is, do we for example have a certain strategy where we say, these are the type of causes or nonprofits that the donors resonate most with, and hence let them on board. Yes, we do that. But
Hmm.
having said that, any nonprofit who is looking to scale fundraising, and is open to growing as an organization, with respect to reporting, due diligence, and updates, we definitely onboard them and we support them.
Right, right. So, Priyanka, two factors: one, which is more audience reach and penetration, and the second one is trust. So, these are one of the most important parameters to grow platforms like Give India and to have more exposure across the globe. So, what are the digital channels and tools you're using to target your audience?
Sure. From a top of the funnel perspective, we find that SEO has, of course, been extremely, useful as a strategy for us as a platform.
Hmm.
I think so. If you think about Give India is a marketplace, right? It's very similar to what is a Flipkart or an Amazon, where you bring the donors and the non-profits together, and hence, our platform is very, very robust from that perspective. And we have had a very good structure in place to ensure that our SEO ranking for keywords that matter in this space, we keep a track of that and we continue to work on that. So that's one space. Other than that, from the top of the funnel perspective, identifying people who have intent to donate. To do that, we leverage both SEM and also Facebook ads, Facebook and Instagram ads. And then there's the usual suspects, right? Uh, that was for the top of the funnel, but people who are already on your database, the usual suspects of uh, uh, very engaging, thoughtful email marketing is something that we continue to do, and we don't view it as marketing. We see it as a community of donors who are with us because they want to know how they can support our network of nonprofits. So we go back to them, very with a very thoughtful email marketing process, which includes reports and updates, and also providing them updates on what are the new missions that have come on board, what are the challenges that some of the NGOs are facing, and how they can engage with that. So that's how we engage with existing donors. From an acquisition lens, like I said, SEM and Facebook ads is what we leverage. Of course, our social media, especially now, for example, channels like Twitter and Instagram, uh, has become, the choice to hold a narrative, to talk about, various issues or the work that we are doing. And
Mhm.
also because a lot of influencers and celebrities who support us are also very active on these platforms, because we've been engaging with several of them, it becomes very easy to have conversations and start narratives on these platforms. So to build, the very, very top of the funnel narratives and conversations, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter have been very useful as well.
Right, right. So you talked about customer engagement. Now, so any specific plan do you follow to retain your customers as well?
Yeah, so a couple of things. For us, retention is all about ensuring that, the donors know exactly how their funds are being utilized. So we're very particular about that. That is part of our retention strategy, to ensure that every month the donor understands how the funds are being utilized. In many cases, for example, if somebody has donated to the education of a child, this person will get the marks card of the child that they're supporting,
Okay.
right? So we go down to that level of detail so that the donor starts engaging and is more invested with the beneficiaries. So that is
Right.
one strong part of our engagement, strategy. Apart from that, of course, we have a very strong, drip marketing strategy across email and also on Facebook to keep them engaged. When we do large programs, we ensure that we're providing them all the updates either through email. Another interesting aspect is we also do a very frequent, not frequent, but I would say once in a quarter kind of an update through calls also to many of our donors to understand what is working, what is not working. So, yeah, so these are the ways in which we keep our donors engaged.
Right. Uh, uh, GiveIndia is a platform bridging the donors and the NGOs. So how exactly is the monetization taking place here?
See, we are not a monetization platform at all. We are a non-profit ourselves, and we are here to scale giving. However, yes, we do have a certain cost of operation because we are a 55-member team, a very small team. However, to take care of these costs, which is, all the non-profit onboarding costs, tech costs, marketing costs, people costs, and all the operational costs, we have a certain percentage of the funds that we raise that we retain to manage these costs. But this is very minimal, right? Because what we want to focus on is, as much as the donor is donating, we want that to be utilized for impact work. We in form of grants, we have several donors such as Omidya Network India, Gates Foundation India, Amit Chandra through AT Chandra Foundation,
Mhm.
and several other philanthropists, Vikram Bhargava, who support us through grants so that we can continue to scale our efforts.
Right. So one important question that's coming to my mind, Priyanka, is that most of these NGOs do not have adequate systems in place to raise awareness about their causes, and consequently have difficulty raising funds to support these causes. So can you
Yeah.
tell us how marketing initiatives make a huge impact on the growth of an organization?
So there are two to three aspects there. What we always try to do, and we also encourage our nonprofits to do, is focus on storytelling, focus on the real impact of the work that you're doing, right? Most donors are very, very understanding and forgiving, as long as you're telling them what is the impact that you're really having on the ground. Show me how you're doing that. Tell me a story. Tell me the stories of the beneficiaries. Tell me the story of the people who are actually doing this work on the ground. As long as you're weaving these stories and keeping your donor engaged, typically your donor base continues to improve basis that, because your trust levels increase. Um, and also for the current generation of millennials and Gen Zs, storytelling is the most important aspect, and you have to identify the right channel that works for you. We have found that, for example, even Instagram has been an amazing channel for us. That could be anything for you. For example, for a non-profit which focuses on activism and education, Twitter could be a better one, right? But identifying that channel and then, building a narrative around what your real work is the most important, I feel, marketing, works initiative that any nonprofit has to pick up. And I think nonprofits are adopting this. I see some great work happening around this space. Apart from this, I think partnerships, whether it is with consumer platforms or corporates or citizen movement groups, is very important. Just focusing on one particular channel also does not help. You
Mhm.
need to be very collaborative across across the ecosystem and outside the ecosystem to raise awareness of who you are. So, for example, GiveIndia did an initiative called I for India in May, in the first week of May, where we brought in corporates, philanthropists, celebrities from Bollywood, from the sports circles. We brought in Facebook very kindly, supported us through this initiative, and we ended up raising a lot of funds for all our nonprofits who are doing selfless act of work on the ground during COVID. So that requires a different level of collaboration and partnerships that you have to go after. You should be open to doing that as well. So I think these are two aspects I would say are most important for the nonprofit organization to scale.
Right. And also, I would agree with you. It's not only enough to just channelize the donation to the NGOs, but also to keep engaging your donors about the impact that their
Yeah,
little, very small contribution has made on these lives. So, which is
correct.
very important.
Yeah, agree.
Um, Priyanka, any parting thoughts or message you would like to share with our listeners and the aspiring young marketers?
I think for me, one of the I've been proud to also be working at Give India because a lot of people are now looking to giving as a way of life and making it a very active part of their lifestyles and journeys. I would encourage everybody, all you listeners, to find what that is for you, whether it is volunteering, whether it is finding one NGO or finding a few people you want to support and give back. As a collective conscious, I think that growing that should be each and every one of our responsibilities. Also, come and visit giveindia.org when you find some time, go through our work and see if anything strikes a chord. From for young marketers, all I always talk about, and this has been my own learning, is the more work you do, the more creative you get. Creativity, I think, comes out of being very, very good at your skills, whether it is understanding performance marketing across different channels or learning to write, whether it is content or even designing. I would say learn everything, do a lot of it so that creativity comes out of it. And yeah, so that would be all.
Amazing, amazing, Priyanka. Thanks so much for this much valuable and wonderful discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Priyanka Prakash, Head of Marketing and Partnerships at Give India. Thank you so much, Priyanka.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you all. Bye.